Allow MJ Morris to reintroduce himself. His name is MJ.
Guess who's back? Back again.
I mean, it is an unusual situation, right? MJ Morris seems to have all of the hype, all of the buzz. Everybody is very optimistic, and that translates, right? What I mean by that translates is it's one of the few moves a coach has to completely jumpstart a team. It's why so often you see, you very rarely hear like, hey, this has been a really tough season. It's not all his fault, but we need a spark, so we're gonna replace our left guard. Like you don't hear that, right? Because the shuffling at most positions happens all the time, but when you make a quarterback change, it feels like a different team, right? Practice is different. Warm-ups are different. Running through the tunnel is different. Here's Dave Dorn on the offensive spark he's seen during practice this week. Actually, we're going to hear from Dave Dorn on the offensive spark during practice this week in a second. But going back to what I was saying is there's, outside of like a coaching change and a quarterback change, and trust me, coaches will never choose the coaching change for obvious reasons, and a quarterback change, there's not really anything you can do to completely get a different feel for the season. Now we have the Dave Dorn clip lined up. Here he is talking about the spark.
I think MJ did a great job coming in and understanding what we need. We needed to galvanize the guys. Each group has their piece in this thing. Offensively, each position group has been challenged to do their job and help the quarterback and play what we call 11-man football. Just each guy, in harmony playing together. And the synchronicity of the sport, when it flows the right way, you saw it on defense a week ago. It's just guys working together and making it look really good, and you can have the same thing on offense, and we've seen spurts of it. But that's where we want to be. We want to be a four-phase team: offense, defense, special teams, and then our sideline energy. And so that piece that we're missing, it was definitely prevalent in practice this week and how they went out there and went about their work.
First of all, I want to give credit, and I think I've said this before, but I love it. 4 phases? Every coach I've ever played for, every coach I've ever talked to, every coach I've ever covered wants to be a 3-phase team: offense, defense, special teams. He added the 4th phase: sideline energy.
The Juice Squad.
The Juice Squad.
The Rally Towel guys.
I actually had someone at the game on the Louisville game. It was Friday. Ask me, now on 3rd down, this group all starts dancing. Why did they do that? I was like, they're bringing the juice. What do you mean?
So it's redshirt guys. Trying to prove themselves.
Need to do something if you know you're not going in the game. Get together on 3rd downs and jump up and down. But that kind of plays into what I'm saying here. The juice now has to be earned for MJ Morris. There is an unbelievable amount of pressure on MJ Morris. The most popular person on the team is the backup quarterback. It's been that way for a billion trillion years. The most popular person in the entire city sometimes is the backup quarterback, right? Because everybody loves hating on the starting quarterback, and the backup hasn't had a chance to make any mistakes, right? They're perfect. They're undefeated. The most popular person on the team is always the backup quarterback, which means MJ Morris just vacated the title of the most popular person on the team. His promotion took that away. Now the popularity has to be earned. Now the popularity goes as far as you are playing well. And oh, by the way, you're expected to completely and totally change up the entire season. Even because let's be real, right? And North Carolina State won 3 games. At one point, they were 3-1, and their only loss was to a top 10 team in the country, Notre Dame at the time. But it still felt like something needed to be shifted.
Yeah.
Right? Every Monday we do the podium here on The Drive, where I rank that weekend's performance on a podium style: gold, silver, bronze, off the podium, of the 4 ACC teams in North Carolina. Wake, NC State, Duke, North Carolina, right? We put them all on a podium every single week. When NC State was 3-1 and their only loss was to Notre Dame, they still had not climbed higher than bronze on the podium. right? There was something that needed to change. So they lose the game against Louisville. It's a backbreaker. The offense can't move the ball. They're putting in MJ Morris, and he has to – it's not just like, oh, you have to fix what we did against Louisville. It's you have to give us the spark that we've been lacking the entire season. And guess what? Just doing your job is wildly difficult. Just being a starting quarterback in a Power 5 conference and just being a good quarterback – unbelievably difficult thing to do. I laugh when people are like, the most difficult thing in sports is to hit a baseball. I'm going, no, the most difficult thing in sports is to play quarterback. And that's not coming biased because I played it, because, trust me, I didn't make it look easy. I'm saying it's the most difficult thing because there's not 11 guys out there trying to stop you from hitting the baseball. There's one. Right? There's not – it's the complete and in totality of playing quarterback is unbelievably difficult. So you take MJ Morris and say you have to do that, but you also have to help your wide receivers be more explosive, but you also have to get rid of the ball quicker to help your offensive line, but you also have to get Robert Anai in a rhythm as a play caller because he never really got into a rhythm as a play caller with Brennan Armstrong, but you also need to make sure you're protecting the football because your defense is good enough to win you games as long as you don't turn it over, but there's so much more tossed on top of him. And we don't know what amount of help he's going to get. We don't know if the offense is going to fundamentally change from a scheme or play calling standpoint. But we know that MJ Morris is coming into the offense and their season hinges on him being able to up the level of production. And guess what receivers are going to be running routes for him? The same ones that were running routes for Brennan Armstrong. Guess who's going to be blocking for him? I know Dylan McMahon's coming back from injury, but for the most part, the same offensive line that was blocking for Brennan Armstrong. And you can lie to yourself and say all of the struggles that the offense was facing were all 100% because of Brennan. That's not the case. It's not. My first reaction was Brennan Armstrong was not playing exceptionally well. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think I'm breaking any news. But also, he wasn't put in the best situation to have success. Right? It feels much more like in the NFL, we talk context around quarterbacks, right? We acknowledge Bryce Young isn't playing well, but we also say, but his wide receivers aren't as good as other quarterbacks have in his offensive line. When we get to college, it's like the quarterback isn't playing well, switch to the backup. That'll fix everything. It's like, well, how about we look at the context here? How about we look at everything around it and ask yourself if changing quarterback, if the new quarterback will be so good that he can overcome the things that the previous quarterback couldn't. I'm not saying MJ Morris isn't, but I'm saying if he doesn't overcome everything that this offense has working against it, the season is going to drag. No pressure. Right? And that's you know what Robert Anai and Dave Doran's challenges this week is to genuinely make MJ Morris think he has no pressure. Genuinely. Right? I've made this point before in other contexts, but I'll make it this way. As a coach, right, you have to almost lie to your quarterback. Like if you were playing Brennan Armstrong and you knew if he had a bad game against Louisville, you were going to make the switch, pre-game, you had to look him in the eye and say, hey, man, go out there, play loose, right? Just football. Let's go out and win. You couldn't look at him and say, hey, if you don't play well, you're done so. If you don't play well, you might want to start blocking because we might be able to use you on special teams. You don't play well, we're going to MJ. Because what does that do? Then every time Brennan Armstrong goes back to throw, he's going to be going, this is an interception. Never mind, I won't throw. And hesitations get you killed as a quarterback. So if you're MJ Morris and you're out there and you're thinking, if I don't play well, our season is a wash, right? There's no other break glass in case of emergency option. They just used that. That's the quarterback change, right? There's nothing else they can do to really change up the whole deal here, right? I was the last resort, and now I'm out here. If I don't play well, this whole thing goes down the tube. That's a problem. He can't be thinking that. He has to think, just do my job. right? The Patriots thing, do your job. You have to be thinking that. That's the challenge of the coaches. And that's not an easy thing to do because, players are human. They're perceptive. They can get vibes, right? I know what it feels like. Again, I played in college. I know what it feels like to have the offensive coordinator walk by and be tense before a game, and I know what it feels like to have the quarterback or the offensive coordinator walk by and feel confident before a game. I'll tell you, I played better when the games they were confident, as does everybody. You have to project that confidence regardless to make MJ Morris think all he has to do is go out there and make decisions. You go back and watch his film last year, the best thing he did, just make decisions. Right? The best thing he did was just quickly get the ball out of his hands. Tell him that's all you got to do. That's it. Don't make him think he's got to make up for an offensive line that's not getting it done, a running game that's not getting done, wide receivers that aren't making dynamic plays. Don't make him think he has to make up for all that. He just got to get the ball out of his hands to the right read in a timely fashion.